Hi guys, it's Paolo Ben Sami, aka the Pint-Sized Adventurer, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of Life According to Paolo. Today I have a super special guest called Mitch Davinsky. Is that right?
Davidowitz.
Oh, Davidowitz. Sorry about that. So
That's
Mitch
okay.
Davidowitz. Yeah, if it's okay, if you just introduce yourself, please, to the audience and tell them a bit about what you do, please.
Sure. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak. So primarily, I am a psychotherapist and teacher and writer. I've been practicing, I'm in private practice of doing psychotherapy with clients. My area of expertise is grief and loss. And so I've traveled around the United States teaching healthcare, mental health professionals in how to work with those facing loss. I've also been a practitioner of mindfulness meditation for almost now 50 years.
Wow.
And I'm a writer. I post my writings that go around globally. And I forgot to say also that I'm a photographer, and my work is sold around the United States.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
That's who I am.
Awesome. Thank you so much for allowing me to interview you today. So for my first question it's a question that I've written down, but it's something that I just really wanted to ask you, is that what point in your life did you discover that you wanted to be a psychotherapist and a nature photographer? Was that something that you've always wanted to be since a young child?
You know, when I was a young child and a teenager, I had a particular interest in how people were doing. When people were going through difficulties, I wondered about that. What had people move through them? And then as a teenager, people would say to me, oh, you should be a counselor. You're a good listener. And so it was really a natural evolution of who I was to be in this work. And so it really is very aligned with my wish to help people and who I am as a person. So that's the counselor part of it.
Awesome.
And you were also asking about the photographer?
Nature. Yeah.
So that's an interesting story in that 25 years ago, I was in California as a tourist, and a couple asked me if I would take their picture with their camera. And when I clicked the button, there was something in that click that called to me, some kind of calling. And without any interest in photography or any training, I came home and decided to buy a camera. And I discovered quite accidentally that I had an eye for composition, for seeing the beauty in a picture. And soon after that, I began to sell my images around the country. And so this is a very important part of my teaching and my life, is what to do when we hear the calling. How do we know it, and do we go with it?
That's absolutely amazing story. I absolutely love that. Just hearing one click made you want to go into a career within your life. I also wanted to ask, within what you said, was how were you able to know after that one click, no experience of photography at all, after just one click of taking a photo for someone, how did that feel for you, where you understood what you wanted to do?
Well, what happened is that initially I had that camera and I was just exploring wherever I saw a picture to take it. And then one day I went into this health food store, Whole Foods Market it's called, and I believe it's in your country as well, perhaps. It's a global natural foods market. And I saw a woman with these cards, photographic note cards, And I thought, I can do that. And I sent my work to this company, and they said, yes, we'd like to try them. And I've been with them for 25 years. And then a few years later, just a couple, I was exhibiting my photography at a stationery show in New York. And a man came up to me and said, please call me. We'd like to talk to you about your photography. And it turns out that man was a buyer for the Walt Disney Company.
Oh, wow.
He said, come to California, where I first heard that click, photograph California. And if we love it, we'll put you in our new theme park. And those were the seeds to grow this passion and love of being a nature photography.
That's absolutely amazing. And I just want the audience, whoever's listening right now, just to understand is that your passion it doesn't have to be sidetracked. You can focus on your passion and do what you love, whilst obviously, like you said they were going to put your photos in a theme park, which is absolutely amazing because it's something that you love and it's something that you cared about. But, just with the natural ways of life, it turned into a career for you. And that is
Yes.
absolutely amazing. So I just wanted to ask if you could share to the audience how important it is to understand what you want to do within your life and how to get there.
Yes, a really important question. It really is about listening and trusting. And so clearly when I first heard that click, it could have just been the click of a camera. But in the quiet place of us, we need to listen to hear what is calling to us. What, as I said earlier, what is the direction that we need to go? When the pandemic began, in between counseling, I have 10 minutes between clients. And as I was feeling into this global suffering, I found myself unexpectedly writing a short few paragraphs that I titled Hope. And in writing that, there was another click in my soul, the click to step up and offer hope. And so I began to post on LinkedIn and Facebook without ever having intention to be on social media in this way. And then it caught fire, and I began to post every day messages of hope, of support, of guidance, of wisdom, and of love. So the answer to your question is, when you hear your own click, it's important to claim it, affirm it, know it, and most importantly, to take action on it.
Yeah.
If I hadn't bought that camera, if I hadn't started posting, you and I would not be here having this conversation.
Mm.
Does that answer that question?
Oh my God, it answers the question, and it's an amazing answer. So yeah, you definitely answered my question. A while ago, when you talked about your psychotherapy, being a psychotherapist, it's all about listening. How did that impact your life? To just be able to sit down and listen to what somebody else is saying, and how did it benefit you and the person that you were talking to?
Right. So listening is very powerful. It's something that's hard for us to do because our minds are wandering all over the place. We're waiting to ask a question while someone is talking. So we're not very quiet inside.
Yeah.
And when I was 20 years old, I had a classmate in college who introduced me to meditation, to mindfulness meditation. And I learned in that in that practice, very simple practice, how to quiet myself so that I could listen to what was being said inside of myself, first and foremost. And then secondly, I understood that if I could be quiet, I could listen to what people were struggling with, and I could hear how I might help them to disentangle from their suffering. What would that path be? And so then in that deep listening, with a quiet mind and a quiet heart, we can hear more. I could hear more. And then everything became clearer. And so no doubt in my taking photographs or in my therapy or in my writing, I'm quieting down so that I could listen to see, what do people need? And it shaped my life because it allowed me to be connected to passion, to love, and to wisdom.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. So what you just said is like, just by knowing just by listening, you understand your passion and what you want to do. And that is absolutely amazing, because I guess a lot of the time in life, we're so busy that we forget to listen, which is a really, really important part. So being a psychotherapist and listening to other people's struggles and hurt that they've gone through, how did it impact you? Because there is a lot to take on other people's hurt, worries, and things that the negative things that may have happened to them. So how did it impact you, and how did you deal with it?
Yeah, it's a powerful question. You know, I began my training in a more serious way. I mean, my undergraduate degree is in psychology. I began that when I was 18. But I went back to get advanced training in counseling. And at the very beginning of that training, my mother died quite unexpectedly of lung cancer. And so I took some time off. And what I came to understand was that people didn't know how to connect with those facing loss, how to deal with my loss, my grieving. And so out of my own experience of suffering, I understood what was needed, what was missing. And so it began to shape my life of really honoring people where they are and what they were dealing with, not trying to give someone a reason why they shouldn't be suffering. We begin by listening, and then we honor where someone is, respecting that, and then offering a lifeline to help. And so to your question, how did that impact me? It grew my deeper empathy, my deeper understanding of suffering, my deeper awareness of what was universal pain and what was universally needed, and has really shaped my life up until this moment as we're speaking.
I'm in love with that, what you just said. That is absolutely amazing, because being a psychotherapist, it's just amazing to see how yourself and other psychotherapists understand what people are feeling. They're able to express the same emotion. And I'm sorry about the loss of your mother as well. But did the passing of your mother help you to understand other people's situations if relatives of theirs had passed away?
Thank you for your condolence. The death of my mother was an initiation into a world I had not known. This was my first significant loss And of course, as a parent, it was a huge loss. And it really opened a doorway into this world of grief and mourning and sorrow. So it was very powerful. And what I understood as a psychotherapist and also someone who works with those facing loss is that people need to share their story in safety. People often have very strange ideas about what psychotherapist is. It really is a trusted friend in a safe space to share your story, whatever that was. And so my story at a young age was the death of my mother. And as I sat with it and listened and understood, it grew my ability to connect with other people's grief and to really listen and respect what they needed. For one person, it's their faith that helps them. For another person, they feel betrayed by God when there's a loss. I understood that everybody has their own way and time frame to move through great loss. And so one last thing to add to this is that right now we are grieving and mourning the loss of our lives as we once knew them because of this pandemic. And for hundreds of thousands and millions around the world, we're not just grieving the loss of our life, our lifestyle, our freedom to go into a restaurant without fear, to be close to those we love and feel safe, but we're actually grieving the death of those we've loved who died of COVID. And so there's a real important understanding needed now that we are grieving, that there is sorrow, that there are losses that we're dealing with every day.
Yeah, that is true, because you never really know what people are going through. Like, there are people who, like, they've lost so much in just one day, and I think it's really important about what you said is connecting with another human and respecting and understanding what they've said, because it's one thing listening to someone and it's another thing hearing what someone said, but it's an entirely different thing understanding what they said and respecting what they said, and being able to be so respectful that you can even give your own opinion on that in a respectful way. So I absolutely love what you shared. So on your journey on becoming a psychotherapist and going into photography, was there any people in your life that disagreed with the careers that you chose? And if so, please may you tell us how you dealt with it?
Yes, really important question. These two careers were very intimately connected, because to be a good photographer, you have to be able to compose the picture. You can't just point the camera anywhere. You need to know what is the photo, what will spark someone's interest. To be a therapist, a good therapist, you're helping people to compose their life pictures, what they want in their life and what they want out of their life, and feeling the power to do that. I never had anybody discourage me from either of these careers, and I've been doing both of them for decades. I think that people didn't see in the photography how big it would become. They thought it was just a hobby, something to play with. But it actually grew into a national business in which I had my images around the United States. And so that was unexpected, but always encouraged to follow my passion.
Amazing. And I love, just from what you shared, how you were able to correlate and connect both areas of work that you do, being a psychotherapist and also being a photographer as well, and how you were able to connect those two worlds, even though people may think they're worlds and worlds apart. But it's just amazing how you're able to connect them. So when you're taking pictures, what is the one thing that you look for?
Right. Well, I look first and foremost for something that feels inspiring, whether it's a flower or the way a tree is looking or something beautiful. My goal in photography is to bring joy to someone who sees it. Two things. One is to inspire calm and to inspire joy. And so when I feel those two things in myself, then I click. That's really what guides me in it. And it's been very successful in terms of people saying, I feel really happy looking at your flower pictures, or I really love this sunset that you took. Being inspired inside, both, as you could see in talking to me, being inspired matters for me as a human being, right? And so that comes out in my photography, you know, to be touching people's lives with it.
Yeah. It's just amazing how you can translate a message to someone and send someone a message through one photo. Like, I think that is the most amazing discovery of mankind, being able to understand and to understand what to look for within a photograph. And
Yes.
I also wanted to ask, when you're taking photographs, is there any like tips that you would give to maybe whoever's listening now who wants to go into photography? Are there any tips or tricks that you want to share with them?
Yes, that's very good. And so first and foremost, to get, if they can, a good camera, a good beginning camera. And the other is not to judge their pictures, because what you think maybe is not very good, someone else may love. And pictures that I have loved, when I went to Thailand, I love many of the pictures I took, but some people didn't love those. And so, as they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yes.
And so just now with digital photography, you can take a lot of pictures. So just keep shooting what you love. Begin with what you love to see and take that. It may be children's faces. It may be dogs. It could be birds. It could be anything. And so that's first and foremost. Get a good camera, photograph what you love, don't judge it. And the other is cropping the picture. So if I go outside and I see a tree, I don't want to photograph everything I see in that picture. I want to bring the camera lens in here this way and this way until, boom, I capture the essence of that picture. Less is more. And so seeing the power of composition, of cropping, and experiment with that. Show it to other friends and family. What do they think? Show different images of the same picture. That would be some simple advice.
I definitely agree with everything that you said. And just listening, it's also within photography, it's understanding that, like exactly what you said, is like someone may not like it, but there's a bunch of other people out there who are going to like it. And so it's about finding that audience of people who understand what you want to share and understand your vision within a picture. And
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the last thing around this photography is if you start to get good and you have some money, to buy different lenses. So I have a very long one, a telephoto. So if I'm far away and I see a bird, I can capture it. I have a micro lens, a macro lens that gets up very close to a leaf in a flower. And then I have a wide angle lens. So when I was in Rome, in Italy, I could capture the Colosseum, the magnificence of the whole Colosseum, or where the Pope lives, you know, just the enormity of that square where he gives mass. And so it's good to have a variety of lenses as you get more into it.
And using lenses as a metaphor, it's also about seeing things from a different perspective, right? Because like, imagine like what you said, if you want to take a picture of Rome, you wouldn't use a standard lens because you're not going to capture the entire essence of what you want to capture. So it's about seeing things from different lenses, different perspectives, and digging deep and understanding what you want to photograph and what that looks like. So that kind of leads to my next question, which is, being a photographer, which is a creative person, is there in your mind, do you have a picture of what you want to capture, or is it freestyle?
As a photographer, well, first let me say that I just understood what makes you a brilliant podcaster and a brilliant young human being.
Thank you.
Is this connection you just made to the symbolic nature of lenses, because we want to have a wide angle lens to see the big picture, both in photography and in our life. We also want to be able to zoom in on what we need in a given moment. And that combination will allow us to move through this pandemic, having an understanding of the largest picture of our life and the moments of our life. As a photographer, I never go out with an image in my mind. I allow myself to be called to an image. Right above my computer, where I'm looking at you, is this picture of a lotus, this beautiful lotus. And I was standing at a monastery in Thailand, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw this lotus, and it was calling to me. It could have been saying, Mitch, come and take my picture. And so a few moments later, I went and I took it. And when a woman in New York saw this photo, she asked me to blow it up 4 feet by 8 feet for her yoga studio. And so she was inspired by it. You see what I'm getting at? That calling,
yes,
wound up touching someone else as well. So listening to see what calls your interest.
I think
does that address that?
Really key tip, really, really key, because you got to know your calling, because and when you don't know your calling, you get distracted and confused. It's like being a bird and answering to the call of a bear. It's not right. You're only meant to you're only meant to understand the calls of other birds. So knowing your calling is really, really important. And I wanted to ask you is, how do you know it's calling you? Is there like a sign that you see?
it isn't it's not just like a hunger pain where you're hungry and so then you go eat. It's really an intuition. It's a feeling. It's a sense. And then it's taking a risk, taking a chance. Often we don't follow our calling because we want to know the outcome. We want to know guaranteed it will work. And sometimes it doesn't. And so it's the hearing it, trusting it, and taking a risk, right? And so it may be a momentary calling, or it might turn out, as it did for me with photography or counseling, to be a lifetime calling.
Oh my God, everything you say resonates exactly with me. And I love how you understand when something is calling you. And it is about taking that risk because, like stocks and shares, when you invest into a stock, you're taking a risk. And just because it calls you doesn't mean you're going to get the outcome that you want. But it's being able to have the vision to see what you can get out of it. So I wanted to ask you a bit about purpose. So I wanted to ask you what purpose means to you.
Yeah, very powerful question. I just want to ask, as an aside, is there too much light coming in into the photo? Because I can pull the curtains if so.
Oh no, it's absolutely amazing. We can see you. It's perfectly fine.
Okay, good. That's a really important question. Do you know a kite? If you look at a kite in the sky, it can only fly if it has a tail. A boat can only go if it has a rudder. Purpose is that part of ourselves that gives us direction, that gives us a sense of meaning in our life, a sense of direction. If I were to get into my car after this conversation with no purpose, I might start it and just sit in front of my house. Where am I going? Purpose guides us and gives us a sense of value, a feeling of I'm doing something that feels worthy, that has meaning. Every morning now, I wake up, I have my coffee, and my purpose is to offer whatever wisdom and love I can and hope in my posts on LinkedIn and Facebook. So there is tremendous purpose. Finally, Paula, that purpose is the light of the candle in the darkness of our life. Right? It is the warmth that comes from it, and it is the light. It gives us a sense of a kind of direction and meaning, and the light of hope. We need purpose.
Wow, that is a beautiful answer. I'm just so amazed. We're like literally the sage of photography and psychotherapy. It's absolutely awesome. So we talked so much about various different topics, how to see the world from different perspectives, what purpose means to you, how to understand what your calling looks like, and if it really is calling you, and just I've learned a lot of photography tips as well. So I'll be taking that with me as well, because I'm getting into photography, and it's just amazing how when you get into photography, when you wake up every day, you're able to see even more beauty within the world.
Yes, absolutely. That's beautifully said. It's that waking up, and both in our life and in your photography, asking yourself, where is the beauty of my life? What do I want to do with my life picture and photographs?
Definitely, no, definitely, amazingly said. So it's been awesome having you on my podcast. So thank you so much for allowing me to interview you today. I've learned so much. So just before I end this episode and before we go and part ways, I would just like to ask if you could share a quote or a tip that you want to share with whoever's listening.
Yeah, that's a really good one. You know, the writer and philosopher Camus, he said, "In the midst of winter, I found in me an invincible summer." As we move through this winter of this ongoing pandemic that has created weariness in all of our souls, let us find that place that is our invincible summer, the part that is not impacted by the pandemic. And one of those places that no illness can touch is the power of love, our ability to feel it, to express it, and to share it. And so let us have that invincible summer that's rooted in love and offered with hope.
Oh my God, that is beautiful, 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 beautiful. So to whoever who is listening right now, I've got a challenge for you. I just want you to go back to the quote that Mitch just said, and I want you to listen to it every day because it is really, really inspiring. Being able to see hope within your world, being an agent of hope, and understanding that there is hope when whatever you want to do within your life. So thank you so much for joining me here today, and to the audience. I will be dropping Mitch's LinkedIn and bio down below so you can learn a bit more about what he does. Give him a follow on LinkedIn as well to also see the inspirational posts that he'll be sharing and his awesome photographs. So thank you so much for being on my podcast and sharing this awesome past 40 minutes with me. It's been absolutely amazing.
My pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.